In this chapter, we're going to be talking about scope. And scope refers to the context in which a variable or some other object's value is legitimate or valid or even visible. And sometimes it's hard to talk about scope without providing an example. So in this lesson, we're going to look at the first example of scope, and that's global scope. What I'm going to do is I'm going to open a program called global.py. So again, we're talking about scope, and generally speaking, the two types of scope we talk about are global scope and local scope. Now, in general, it's a bad idea to have too many objects, variables, whatever, of global scope. And we'll have to save that discussion as to why it's not a good idea until later in the chapter. But for now, I just want to demonstrate what global scope means. When we have a Python program and we declare a variable, at this level, we say that number has a global scope in relation to the rest of the program. And what that means, it means that any other part of the program can access number's value. Well, what does that mean? Well, first of all, of course, we know that the program itself can access the value. So when we run this program, we get the value 1. That we already understand. What that also means, though, is that if we define a function and make a call to the variable number from inside the function, like so, watch what happens. We still have access to it. That is a classic example of global scope. What that means, again, is that once a variable is declared in the main part of a program, and by that I mean outside a function definition or a class definition, we'll talk about classes later in the course, then its visibility is throughout the program. So, even though getNumber is a function that when we declare variables inside of it have the other type of scope, local, because number is declared in what we might term the global area, but just in the main program, then its visibility is anywhere. So we can access number from the main program, and we can also access number from a function call. And when the function call is executed, Python simply looks for whatever version of number there is, and it's here defined in the global scope or in the global context, so it accesses that value. So that's what global scope means. And we're going to end this lesson now, and I admit it's a fairly short lesson, but I wanted to keep these concepts of global and local scope separate. So now that you understand what global scope means, we're ready to move to the next lesson where we're going to talk about local scope.